Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the TSG Bikecast. So this week we have returning guest Nick Bowman, who was in episode 3, talking about trail advocacy in Australia in the early days of mountain biking and in South Australia. So I've got him back because we're going to talk about his book. It's called Zen and the Art of Trail Maintenance. We look at the more philosophical side of trail building and trail maintenance and what it means to him to be a trail builder after all these years. So I really hope you enjoy the episode, and here we go. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the TSG Bikecast. I'm your host, Steve Tamsoff, and with me I have returning guest Nick Bowman on the line. How you going, buddy?
G'day, good, thank you.
So tell us, before we get cracking on what we're going to talk about today, tell us where you are at the moment, because you seem to be sitting on top of a hill somewhere.
Yeah, I'm just started a new little project in a place called Warabra, which is a little bit south of Melrose. It's a new national park, and they're just starting to put in different facilities and stuff. So yeah, we're doing the Green Trail, and the best place for me to get coverage was on top of the hill with this magnificent view. I'll just turn around here. It's called the Bluff, looking out over Spencer Gulf there. So it's got a bitumen road up here. So the grand plan is that maybe one day it'll be a shuttle road. Who knows?
Oh, that's so cool. That looks beautiful, man. It's the first time I've actually done a podcast with someone on top of a mountain. So that's sick. So the main reason why we're here today, we've already spoken about your life, and in a previous episode that you can check out, just look through the links. But we're going to talk about a book that you wrote that we didn't get to talk about, called Zen and the Art of Trail Maintenance. So I guess to start off about your book, why write a book? What inspired you to do it?
Oh golly. I mean, as I talked about in the last podcast, I was pretty much a disciple of Imber and studying those books, and they're very much focused on the physical side of trails and, the design, implementation, construction, management. And it was actually when I was traveling on my way over to the US to go to my first Imber summit, as a council employee, but also a trail advocate, I suppose. I just got the brainwave. Well, nobody's written a book on how to advocate for trails or how to negotiate the bureaucracy, but also how to stay positive in that process. So this is going back to 2008. And then it took me like 10 years to write it, but that was where it started. Just wanted to sort of, basically, it turned out to be a bit of a brain dump. All the stuff that I know that people are always asking me on that side of things, I just wanted to get it on paper so people could refer to it directly. And as we've just been chatting, the trail industry is just going boom at the moment. So, there's not a lot of need, there's lots of places that still need to advocate to get access, but we're getting to the point where, we're almost past that point, I suppose, but where I should be giving people advice on how to get trails started. But I guess the other side of it too was using the trail advocacy as a bit of a metaphor on how to deal with other challenges in life, I suppose. The trail always sort of reminds me, some days there's hard days, some days there's good days on the trail, and life's a lot like that too. So yeah, I mean, you don't necessarily have to be into trails to read the book, maybe. That was the plan anyway. And it's sort of evolved over 10 years. I would have liked to have released it a bit earlier, but I got caught up with the whole Imber Australia thing and having a family and stuff like that. So yeah, it came out a bit later than first planned. But yeah, I managed to get it all on paper and put it together and get it out there. A few people seem to have got some positive advice out of it. But yeah, how about yourself? Do you have a bit of a browse through it?
I did, mate. I read it a couple of times actually. We've been playing the trail game for many years. You a lot longer than me, but we sort of know the long and short of how bike parks come to be. We both worked at World Trail for a time as well, and I was there from a lot of their early days with Mount Buller, Falls Creek, and the early days of Derby. And to see it evolve to where bike parks are now in Australia, like you look at the Bear Creek Bike Park in Sydney, which is incredible jumps park, and everything else that's going on. What's going to be at Warburton? It's blowing me away. How far it's come.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
You talk about a few things, not just about the whole advocacy side, which we've spoken about a lot, but you also talk about the mental side of building trails, trail design, and advocacy. And you also talk about the flow state. And I know all about the flow state. So explain to our listeners what the flow state is to you.
Oh, golly. I guess it's that creative mindset, when you're really passionate about what you're doing and you're totally immersed in that moment and the rest of the world melts away. I think a lot of people can get into that mindset when they're riding their bike in the bush or, running or, surfing or skiing or whatever. But I think there's creative types as well that, when you're engaged in that creative process, you just lose track of time, and this is the first part of it anyway. And I can often find myself out there till the sun goes down, still scratching away in the dirt and forgetting that I need to get home and get some dinner and think about tomorrow. I just sort of get caught up and carried away, and it feels in that moment that feels, I suppose the best way to put it is it feels real. It feels pure. It feels like the ultimate truth sometimes, like that's and it builds your energy up and sort of gives you more, more incentive or more ability to cope with the other sort of more mundane parts of your daily life. Sometimes if you've cleared your mind in that process, then everything else seems a lot more straightforward in some ways, I guess. But the other side of it too is when you're just living in that moment, sometimes it's like everything comes together, and you sort of get coincidences maybe, or just everything sort of starts to line up and things move really smoothly, and it feels like you're in the right place at the right time, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been lucky enough to go through that experience a few times and feel like, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. It's very fulfilling, and everything seems to work out all around you and with everyone else around you. And it's just that amazing sort of feeling that, yeah, this is meant to be kind of thing. It's sometimes a rare feeling these days, depending on what's going on. But yeah, I really try in all parts of my life to just stay true to who I am and what I'm about, because that's the only time I feel, real or complete, So I guess I was sort of trying to hint at that a little bit in the book, and that's brought me to, certain of really good opportunities in the mountain bike world, just laying my heart on the line and working towards those goals, and things come together,
Yeah, absolutely, man. You spoke about in your book about a riding trip to the Flinders Ranges with a bunch of mates, and you were sitting around the fire and you told them this is what you wanted to do. You wanted to get paid to build trails and do that, and they all thought you were bloody crazy. Tell us the story about that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. We're sort of going back to 95. I guess to put it in perspective, like where I grew up in Adelaide there, and I think it was the same for most capital cities, we literally didn't have any single track, really. It was just there's a little bits and pieces here or there that people had started scratching in. and then it was walking trails. But I just sort of started to get this idea that, look, you know, if the government couldn't get it together to allow cycling in public areas or public open space, then something's got to happen on private property. And, you know, having experienced, you know, skiing in the winter in the snowy mountains, that, you know, how those private resorts worked. And I started thinking that maybe that's where mountain biking was going to go. It was going to be more like golf clubs or, you know, ski resorts where you sort of paid to ride kind of deal. And I just thought, you know, the first person that puts a chairlift in next to Sydney or Melbourne is just going to make a killing, you know. So I just was starting to have those kind of ideas, and that, you know, there really needs to be some way of getting trails happening. So yeah, it just kind of went from there. And then I was scratching around in the garden, you know, building little dirt jumps and stuff, just seeing how it all worked. But yeah, it was kind of I really don't know where the idea came from in hindsight. It's a long time ago now.
Yeah.
But I felt quite passionately about it. And the interesting thing was, you know, a lot of my mates who thought I was a bit wacky, but there was one particular mate of mine, Mohan, and he was really positive, and he said, no, that's an interesting idea. I think you should go for it and make it work, you know. And it was those positive voices, those people with that sort of, I guess, visionary sort of potential that kind of were saying, I like what you're thinking. I think it's worth looking at and trying to make it happen. So yeah, and again, that's another one of those metaphors, you know, just listening to those, you know, the positive voices rather than the people that are just, you know, more, I guess the better way to see it, not everyone can see the new opportunity. Some people can focus, you know, on what's in front of them, but everyone's got their talents. But I guess in this whole crazy ride, I've seen that, yeah, there's certain visionaries that just see things way ahead of the mainstream, and it takes the mainstream a long time to catch up. Not really sort of thinking of myself in that, you know, guru status there, but I was sort of catching glimpses of it maybe, and, you know, certainly other people around the world were doing the same sort of thing, which was quite interesting. To then, you know, later on get to know Glenn Jacobs and what he'd been thinking and doing in those early 90s, you know, pulling stuff together and watching his crazy movies.
Yeah. He said something, you wrote it in your book, a quote that he said about dragging him kicking and screaming into the future to get stuff done.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he's so good at articulating some of these things. I'm sort of bumbling through a little bit here, but I think one of the interesting things, and this concept I learned about at uni, was parallel evolution, and how, you know, different species in different places can evolve similar characteristics, you know, depending on the challenges they've got. And, you know, for example, the Kalahari Bushmen in Africa developed the same adaptations as some of the Aborigines here in Australia, the desert people, you know, where their capillaries would retain heat at night in the cold desert nights. So that was technically referred to as parallel evolution, or an example of it maybe, but I think when people have a good idea, or these ideas start to formulate, you know, in human society, then it almost starts to open up the potential more. You know, more people have those kind of ideas. Yeah, it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, that consciousness level, that once one person's thinking stuff, then it becomes a reality, or it becomes more greater potential to become real. And there's another example. I'm a little bit into my sci-fi and things like that, but, you know, I don't know if you ever followed or had a look at Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but
yeah, when I was younger,
Douglas
definitely.
Adams. Yeah, Douglas Adams, who wrote the BBC radio show and the novels and stuff, he came up with this, you know, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was sort of like our smartphone, you know. It was this thing that just helped you work your way through the galaxy, and had all this information in it, and could locate you and translate languages and things like that, which is almost potentially a precursor to our modern phones. And he sort of said, oh, wasn't much thought went into it. It was just like a way to, make the plot work, a plot filler to connect the dots. But I think just by getting those ideas out there, they become more real. So sometimes I think just by people talking about what could be possible in mountain bike world, the more you talk, the more the energy builds, the potential grows, and I mean, you look at something like Rampage and you just, 15, 20 years ago, you go, what? No way, that's insane. But now they make it look like easy stuff.
Now it's like
just
big mountain
mental.
slope style. It's so crazy now. It's insanity.
TV does not do it justice,
I can't wait to stand there one day and watch that in real life. It's a plan for the future for sure, man. So I'd say this is actually segued into the next thing I wanted to talk about. In your book, you talk about think big, build big. It seems like such an easy mantra, but what does that mean to you?
Look, I think, well, it's that old thing, if you shoot for the stars, and even if you miss, you're still gonna, hit the moon, or you're still gonna end up somewhere pretty good. I guess it's that idea that, and I think in Adelaide, well, that's where I've grown up, and that's where most of this has happened for me. For a long time, I've been trying to get people to think about Fox Creek as being, an Uber bike park. I've been trying to get people to think about the Adelaide Mount Lofty Ranges as being, like a pretty extensive trail network that could be an awesome tourism product. And I mean, I could see the potential of that a long time ago, and I think it helps the process if you're out there, sharing that vision or that insight with other people. Then they start to see it, and at the time it seemed hopeless, ridiculous. A lot of people again at that point thought you're tripping. It's never going to work. You're never going to. But now it's actually happening. It's quite bizarre. I mean, I've got to say, there was plenty of times where I didn't think it was going to happen. I tried to stay positive and tried to keep that big picture thinking in the front of my mind. But, you go through those moments of doubt or whatever. But I'm in this situation now where it's bigger and better than I ever imagined possible, So I think if you're talking that big vision at this, in the early days, then there's a much better chance of making it happen, yeah, just that kind of thing. So, and it's like all things, not just like the whole trail networks, but, even just the one segment of trail or like a 5 kilometer trail, it's like, well, it's a better mindset to be thinking about it as a playful experience rather than just point A to point B. It's, thinking big is like, well, this is not just to get these people from this car park to that lookout. This is not just a trail to keep the land managers happy and pay the bills. This is actually something that might last for many, many generations and be really special to a lot of people. And so I sort of encourage people to approach that, what seems like a mundane task with, 120% passion, because, if you can find some magic there or some, something beautiful on that 5K section, then, it's really going to make that trail shine, and more people will visit, and it justifies that, economic investment a lot more, so just applying that positivity kind of glasses half full mindset to everything you do, I think pays off in the long run. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not.
No,
I'm not
never
saying
is.
yeah, I'm not saying I'm always the most positive person around, but I always endeavour to try and keep that in the front of my mind anyway. And even if And I've also got another bit of a rule in my head that try not to make any major decisions after 3 p.m. on the trail, because you're starting to get a bit weary, a bit fuzzy.
Yep.
Nothing quite looks right. The sunlight's a bit different. But yeah, when you come back in the morning and fresh, it's like, oh yeah, that's going to work. And we'll
Yeah.
just go over there and that'll happen, like, yeah. So yeah, just, I guess that's what I was trying to get across with that. And I think, like, none of these places that are growing now, Derby or even the new ones that are coming up, and I can't even name them all really. It's just so much going on. But I did spend a lot of time in WA with Imber Australia and more recently on little jobs. But, I've got a good friend there, John Wallace in Collie, and he's another guy who just thought really big. John Wallace, he was helped drive the Southwest Mountain Bike Club, but he had this idea of turning Collie into a mountain bike destination. And I mean, he was so passionate, and I did everything I could to support him. And there was many times I thought, man, because it's old coal mining town, and it was a bit daggy every time I went to visit over the last 10 years. And he just never lost his passion, never lost his vision, and he kept showing up to all the meetings and all the conferences, all the forums, and kept the pressure on with state government. And I don't know what they've spent $20 million there or something now,
Yeah, it's crazy.
Between there and Dwelling Up, and it's happening, and it's, yeah. I mean, so if he didn't have that big picture vision at the start, about what could and couldn't be, then yeah, it probably never would have happened, Just takes someone to share that vision, It might be a small group of people, but there's usually one stubborn person that just keeps pushing and pushing for, well, it's nearly 20 years now, but yeah.
Yeah. It's finally happened. That's so sick. Like WA is really starting to grow, isn't it?
Man, I mean, it's always been really cool trails, but yeah, I think, and it's quite different to the East Coast or Eastern states, that they've done a lot of the top level planning in the background. And it was a frustrating process to witness, just, dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's and all the background paperwork that went in over the last 15 years, probably. But it's paid off now, it's really well done. And I think they're seeing the benefits of that planning process, yeah. So it's going to be, when the borders and stuff open up, it's going to be interesting to see if people will make the journey over to WA to ride some of this stuff. I know I will be.
Yeah, I definitely will be, man. Like I can't wait to go travel and ride again. It's as much as I'm pretty lucky to be stuck in a bubble out here, but I'm really looking forward to trying, ride some new stuff as well this year. So yeah, for sure.
Mate, yeah.
So you also talk about inclusivity and how important it is, trails for everyone. I share the same mantra. Tell us about that. You've worked on all sorts of trails over the years. And what importance do you see inclusivity being into the future of bikes?
Yeah, I think, excuse me, again, in the book, I was trying to get across, maybe for some of the younger guys or younger folks, to maybe not get so hooked up on always building big stuff. And I went through this process myself, where when I first got involved in developing trails, I was a little bit selfish, a little bit motivated about wanting to ride. I guess it wasn't big jumps and stuff like that. I really miss those technical trails. There's not a lot of them around. Excuse me.
Right.
But I was a little bit, motivated by what I wanted to ride and providing challenge. And, as I became a dad, and that sort of changed my mindset a little bit. But it was actually a visit from Ground Effect. They came over to the Melrose Fat Tire Festival, I think in 2005. And they went out and rode some of the trails we'd just built. And they sort of came back, the girls and the guys from Ground Effect, and they kind of said, like, yeah, it's cool technical trail, it's cool Black Diamond stuff, but where's the fun stuff that anybody can enjoy? where's the fun stuff that anyone can roll down and put a smile on their face, you know, without any skill or without a good bike? And I mean, they didn't quite say it like that. They were very polite, I might add. But I almost didn't understand it when I got that feedback. And I must admit, you know, there's a little bit of ego in my response there. It's like, oh, if you can't ride it, you know, like,
Yeah.
and I guess as the years have gone past, you know, gone by, and it's just become less important about, you know, building for myself, but just planning so that everyone, well, I think first thing I should say is, like, you know, you can't have everything for everyone on the one trail necessarily. You can try to do it, but it's a compromise situation. So I like to look at a network approach where you've got something for everyone on specific trails. So I think, you know, if we've got really good green circle trails, a really good base level for people to get involved and get started, well, that grows the sport, number one. It means more people have that positive introduction to mountain biking. It means they're more likely to come back. And even something I kept trying to, you know, get MTBA to recognize as well is that if you've got that foundation layer of trails, then you're going to feed in more potential athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if they've got that gentle introduction, you know, you might catch a few of those potential athletes that might not have had a go in another scenario. So when I'm talking about that kind of stuff, I think, sure, like, we should have, you know, there's got to be the pointy end of the sport. There's got to be the challenging stuff, you know, the cutting edge stuff. But I take a lot of pride in trying to work on that, you know, that introductory experience and making that really fun for people. And I guess it's ended up being my niche a little bit because, well, sort of what I'm riding these days, you know, and getting a bit older as well. And I've got kids and different part of my life. But yeah, I really like trying to get into the head of the beginners, you know, the novice riders, and making sure they have a good experience, you know, and that building towards the other thing. And I guess the other side of it too, having been a land manager and an advocate, just understanding the risk management requirements for land managers and bike parks, that, you know, if we've got that introductory experience and it's all sealed, signed and delivered, and it's really, you know, top quality product, then it allows you to push the boundaries in other areas, you know. And every other place I've ever been to, you know, mountain bike destination, they've always done the green stuff, you know, the introductory trails really, really well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that's often forgotten in our industry, you know, because all the good riders, whether they're in Rotorua or Whistler, they'll just funnel off to their, you know, their favorite trails, and that's cool. But they'll forget that, you know, there might be 10, 20, 30 Ks of really high class, you know, beginner experiences that, you know, the other sort of normal everyday families, mums and dads can kind of enjoy, you know. So
Yeah,
I've
the
tried to
80%.
embrace. Yeah. And yeah, the sort of 80% I sort of think's going up to include your blue stuff. And yeah, I like that too. And, but yeah, I just think as a professional in this industry, it's a really important thing to do. And it's been one of the funny things. And, you know, Glenn and I have talked about it a few times, but sometimes it's almost harder to get a good rider to build beginner trails because, you know, they almost can't put themselves back in that, that basic mindset of where they started.
Yeah.
You know, so that, you know, the stuff that they're just hopping over, I mean, some other people struggle with, you know. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it takes discipline to build easy stuff, you know.
And it can be quite challenging if it's tough terrain. Like you look at the early stuff in Derby, you know, we had a bastard of a time trying to build those first green trails in there, you know, because you try, if it was a black trail, it would be a lot easier because you go, oh, we just go down there, not a problem. But when you're trying to design a green trail for beginners, you've got to make sure that it's fine for them. But it's when you're building in tough terrain, it can be even harder to try and make that trail green and accessible.
Oh, totally, man. And I think, and that's the other thing I'd like, like your landscape architects or your strategic planners to consider when they're putting these ideas up, like, yeah, it's your beginner trails have to be in that gentle landscape. I don't know if you've been to Derby in recent years, but they put all the green stuff around the lake on the other side of the road,
Yeah.
and it works beautifully over there. It's the right landscape for it,
Yep.
and yeah, so definitely tough what had to happen there at the front gate anyway.
Yeah, it happens, man. But I mean, that's just a part of it, right? It's those sorts of
Oh, for
projects that
sure.
are really tough, but you get to the end of them and you get tires on them. You just go, well, that was worth it, even though my back is destroyed.
And the other side of it too is when I was sort of starting this, it was really hard to build beginner trails with hand tools. If you're going across side slopes and stuff,
Yep,
trying to make a wider trail, machinery's just made that so much easier, like,
absolutely.
like, yeah. Yes, that's another part of it for sure. But
Yeah, and I love hand cut trail as much as machine cut trail. I'm not picky. I love to ride everything that I possibly can. But I think it's starting to simmer down now, that whole, all machine built trails are ruining the industry, because now there's this huge mixture of trail at every bike park. They build hand cut, they build machine built, jump tracks, flow tracks, beginner tracks. And I think the mixture is now finally starting to settle to a really good medium. And I'm loving that.
yeah, totally. And I mean, I'm seeing something else happen is that, there's some of the bike park trails where they're using, really big machines and massive tilt buckets, and they're getting incredible finish on stuff. And I really respect it, and it's amazing. But I also like the way, I like that handcrafted finish sometimes as well for other things,
Yep.
so the combo of both. And yeah, I mean, just the stuff that's happening all around the place, the innovation is just amazing, really.
Absolutely. It's that,
Yeah.
like you were saying earlier, you get the idea, you put it out there, and then it slowly just builds energy up and then starts to gain momentum. And we're seeing it now in Australia, that's for sure. So we had a bit of a technical difficulty in the middle. We lost connection there. So we picked it up a couple of weeks later. So yeah, apologies for that. But that's technology for you. Enjoy the rest of the episode. Yeah, I was actually yeah, because Ryan Delarue and Evan Winter are over in Buller at the moment, and they're rebuilding the XE Park at Buller with his business Contour Works, and they again got that whole focus on that design now of trying to get more people into sort of that backcountry XE easier style of riding that Buller does have, but it's just sort of gotten outdated, and then instead of just focusing on that shuttle downhill stuff that they usually have, so. I think they're
Yeah.
rebuilding all the older stuff now to bring in a whole new generation of riders to an old place that's, was sick back in the
Yeah,
day.
that's cool. Oh, look at it, and also just seeing how, the first time I went in there on the initial trails, it was still recovering from fire. So now it's starting to look a lot more lush too, and that whole landscape's changed a bit. So
Yeah,
yeah, and I guess maybe that shows something too. Those trails used to feel a little bit gnarly on the old bikes, but now I guess new technology is opening it up a lot for people.
absolutely,
New wheel
man.
sizes, new motors, new all sorts.
New motors, bikes are longer and slacker. Like, trying to get my common
Yeah.
sail up an old trail and a climb is a fucking challenge now compared to my old pivot. Yeah, dude. And I think it's pretty important. And like you're talking about Medina as well, like they jumped into that whole advanced market early. And when I was chatting to Baxter, he was on the ground early with them, and he said, "Yeah, Frenchie just sort of let us go, and we just started building all this really cool black diamond double black stuff with the mates, and then we went, fuck, we got nothing for the, not got nothing for the beginners. We better scramble around and put something together for them too."
Yeah.
They just got a little excited, and they go, we didn't regret what we did, but it's like we looked at it and went, oh shit, maybe we should have done this first and then moved our way up, like a stacked loop. But they've learned,
Yeah.
and now they're doing heaps of different stuff.
Yeah, and I get it. They're off building sort of green and blue stuff all over the country for their clients. So when they've finally got a clean canvas to run amok, yeah, why wouldn't you?
I would go crazy. Yeah.
And I mean, that does mirror a little bit what happened in Melrose as well. We sort of went straight from blue. We had blue trails and then straight to black. We had no green trail.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they're just catching up on it now. There was
Yeah.
that huge gap, but and it's just opening it up so much more, just having that base layer trail for sure.
Yeah, that's sick. And so it's actually in the next question talking about how a trail should reflect the landscape of where you're building, and you're forcing a trail into an area that you think won't work, and it doesn't find that flow that you love. How important is that like cruising through an alignment and going, okay, this is what we're going to build here, and not trying to force a style of trail in there?
Yeah. I mean, in an ideal world, I like to spend a bit of time on the land, just getting a feel for it, and getting in touch with the vibe, if you like,
Yeah.
to see what's kind of gonna what's gonna work there, but also maybe what the land wants to do, maybe. Try to pick up on that vibe, but and you certainly get those you have those conversations when you're hanging out with the Indigenous guys, that's how they see the world. They're trying to listen to their country and work in harmony with it. And I think, I like trying to work towards those parameters as well. Not that I'm as qualified or anything, but yeah. um, and It sort of starts there for me. I mean, I know with modern projects and timelines and budgets and whatever, sometimes I don't get as much time as I'd like to wander around in the bush and do it that way. But I think, again, yeah, having learnt the hard way, trying to put technical trails in an open area, where it's easy to shortcut obstacles and trail filters and features, it just doesn't work. It's a non-stop battle trying to corral people onto your features you've spent all this time building. Or you're trying to build a flow trail in a really rocky place, that gets tricky as well, so yeah, I think it's crazy to kind of stamp any particular style in a place where it might not be. So I think, we're all getting a lot better at it, and the projects are getting more better resourced. So I think we're starting to see a lot more trail design working in this way, that, okay, we'll put our flow trail over there where it's working, and this will be our technical area, or this will be where we have our steep chutes and stuff, and I think it just works better. And yeah, there's so I think community is the other one. Like, you don't, if you've got a sort of humble, sort of quiet community where just sort of young families or maybe even more elderly folks, you don't want to be putting your hardcore trail into that environment. You need the locals to ride the stuff you're building.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, no one's going to look after it. You want your locals to be passionate about what you're making. So the trail has to fit the local community a bit too. I think Derby's a bit of an exception there, that, the installation's so big it's creating a community.
Yeah.
But not everyone's got that potential or ability, So yeah, I think, the project I'm working on here at Warrabra and in the Southern Flinders now, it's, Melrose has always had all the biking and the cool stuff. This is a different patch, it's 30 minutes down the road. It's totally different, it's got loamy soils, like some of the best soils I've ever worked in. And there's hardly any rock where we're working, it's all been sort of ploughed and prepared at some point in the past. It's just a totally different vibe, so we're just trying to introduce people to this new space. It's all quite, gentle and mellow, but I think, we're building a green shared use trail for walkers and riders. So just that alone, we've got to reflect that. Our corners are a little bit flatter. We're not berming stuff up. We're still having our rolling contour trail, but it's maybe a little bit more subtle, trying to keep the sight lines open. It's, yeah, and we've got a preferred direction, but it might even be dual direction as well. So, that's changing all of the things that, we sort of roll out. The alignment itself isn't that much different from how to build a flow trail or something, but just the implementation of it, we're sort of doing things a little bit differently to keep it more appropriate for the walkers and the bike riders together. So,
and those sorts of trails can also bring challenges in themselves as well. Yeah, like you said, if it's dual use, you've got to remember both ways that you're building as you. Yeah, it's a lot easier when you just dig it in one direction. It's just like, oh yeah, shit, we'll just do this here, we'll do that there. But now you got to, think in a couple more dimensions.
For sure, and also the ranger here, the land manager, he's a lot more passionate about the walking, so he's kind of keeping an eye on me as well. So I want to keep him pretty happy and make sure he's come again. If he doesn't love this trail, he's not going to want to look after it. So I'm working really closely with him, and making sure he's really happy. Because and that's another thing I think sometimes in the trail building industry that people might forget is you are working for the land manager, not the riders. So you got to make sure your land manager's happy.
Yeah, well, you also say in your book is you also say that trail access is political, and it's
fully,
in the commercial industry definitely.
Everywhere, and I mean, it's different microcosms, and it could be. I mean, actually, I'm trying to get a pump track. I've just been awarded a pump track in the Adelaide Hills, and they got their federal funding, and we're sort of doing little gravel surfaced ones, not the bitumen ones, but sort of filling in a bit of a niche there for little towns and stuff. But all of a sudden, some of the locals have got their back up and they've shut the whole thing down.
Oh, no way. That sucks.
We hope, and the kids have been building dirt jumps in the bush there all around town, and we're sort of trying to cater for them so they've got somewhere to build and ride. But some of the more conservative, more elderly folks they can't stand that change, and they're digging in their heels. So should find out this week if it's going ahead or not, but it's just a real shame. I mean, and that's still happening. It just blows my mind, like they've done the consultation, they've done the fancy plans, we've had the meetings in the park, everyone's had time to comment. They got their money, they got the federal funding, they've awarded a contract, and it can still get jammed. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is, man. Well, you look at most bike parks in Australia, you can have all that shit set up, and then it gets to like the environmental things that need to be signed off, and all it takes is one person who hasn't signed that document, and it can just hold a whole project up. Like,
if they want to find a chink in the armor, I mean, usually nothing's perfect, sometimes not encouraging people to take shortcuts, but we don't have limitless time and energy and resources. Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet, and it's like, we're doing it. And,
exactly.
I mean, maybe it's for a good thing, and I think our bureaucracy in Australia is fairly overzealous, or fairly rigid and overlapping, but maybe that means we can stop the odd mine site where it's not supposed to be, or protect some sacred sites, or it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes it makes our life hard, but sometimes it's there for a reason. Sometimes it's there because some corporations done some really bad stuff in the past.
They certainly have, man. But sometimes there's a lot of blowback on mountain biking still, even though, and I think now that it's growing so much as well, it's in the limelight a lot more, and it's bringing in more people from the outside who don't really understand. They go, it's just a bunch of yahoos in the bush. Like all the crew at Derby thought that we were, until they met us and realized that we're just lovely. We're just lovely people who love to dig trails in the bush.
We're just hippies on bikes. That's
all. That's it, man. That's sick. So the next part in your book that I wanted to chat about is the media side of promotion, and we've sort of we've touched on this before when in the last podcast we did together. But for people who didn't hear that one, let's talk about that for a little bit, because promoting a new trail network can have blowback from people that don't understand or think that you're doing something wrong, and the whole destroying the bush thing, and you're not taking care of the place. What do you think the positivity in media has to be to make something successful like a bike park?
Oh golly.
And I know we're old blokes, so we're a bit out of the loop. That sort of stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know what's working for the young folks. You got a few big tables and trains of whips, and that gets everyone very excited. And I understand why. I mean, there's just a big flow trail going in at Fox, and it's proper bike park stuff done by the Next Level guys, Next Level MTB, and it's it's sort of like nearly 10, 15 meters wide. It's huge, and it's not a single track, but it's what people want to ride, and it's the right thing in the right place. If you get it wrong on the jump, you've got a bit of a rollout, or soft, like a fairly good fall zone. And the young fellas are just loving that that aspect, the big, wide open, fast lines. And I guess Adelaide was hanging out for something like that, and they finally got it, which is good. And I think just watching the media around Fox Creek, they're just constantly on it and doing the good news stories, and getting people involved and telling different aspects of the process. So that's looks like a fairly professional approach to it. Showing the good stuff. And I think it's always been amazing watching Glenn do his thing. World Trail, the way he promotes the work that he does, and the way it's presented is always amazing and immaculate and really good. So I think selling to the riders is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
When you start trying to tell the broader community about what you're doing, it's quite bizarre, and even the times I've been interviewed by ABC News, or I don't know if you heard that time I was on Hack. They're talking about stuff over at St Helens. That was pretty bizarre, but the trying to explain what trails are about to people with preconceived ideas is a long, hard uphill slog. Like you can't squeeze it into 15 minutes. It's not really fair.
Yeah.
So they can sort of spin it any way they like sometimes. So there's been so many occasions, and I've learned the hard way with media. If they want to promote that. Maybe the better way to explain it is my first experience with media as a trails officer for Bicycle SA in Adelaide was, we'd had all these meetings with the conservation folks, Trees for Life, and we had the downhill club and the cross country club, and everyone was on board trying to sort of calm down the unauthorised trail building that was going on, 2001, 2002, having significant impacts on these like conservation sites. We'd had these fantastic meetings where everyone was agreeing and moving forward together. And when they interviewed me, I was pretty open and honest, but the media, the messenger paper, they just wanted to make it look like an angsty sort of conflict and stir up the drama, the sensationalism of it. And I got my ass absolutely chewed out by my CEO.
Oh man.
Because of the way it read and stuff, and it's like, well, that was like, okay, now I've got to be a lot more careful when I talk to reporters. It's not always that way, but I think it can go that way, and the other thing with media, it's like sometimes the media want to focus in on like one particular group or one athlete or one thing that's bite-sized chunk for them, and they really hone in on that to tell their story, but then you leave all these other people out of the picture, that have helped get that place to where it is. So, that's just another strange aspect of our media. More generally, I think mountain bike media is all pretty good, but I think more generally our media and society at the moment's gone completely wacko.
Absolutely,
but,
man.
and that's
Couldn't
why
agree
there's
more.
more of this independent sort of stuff popping up,
Yeah.
which is good to see. So.
Yeah, it's funny. Like when I first started working for Falls Creek after finishing up with World Trail, and get a lot of the older people that have lodges that come up for winter and they come up summer hiking, and they just didn't quite understand mountain biking. They just thought we're out wrecking the place. And I'd have to, you like you said, you can't do it. You can't tell them the whole picture in 15 minutes. And I tried to explain to them that it took 4 years to get the environmental studies through before we could even put an excavator on the ground. Every step was taken, and a lot of money was spent so we could get to the point that we could actually build these trails, this 30K network. And we're not just a big business is just coming in just to build it for a profit. We're mountain bikers, we're trail builders, we're building out here because we love the place, and we're building for the people here as well, And once they understand that, like I don't even get that anymore. No one even asks anymore. They just go, oh, it's a bike park. So they sort of get it now.
I think we've come a long way, for sure. And we've actually had to jump through a lot more hoops than any other trail user, So we're probably a lot more professional and a lot more, building to a high quality. We have to, you know what it's like. If we don't build our trails to high quality, they just fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's hard to communicate that stuff to your average punter. But one other thing I experienced over the years, and it might not be the case anymore, but I thought with some of the more hardcore green lobby groups, politically speaking, stopping mountain bike developments was more achievable for them than stopping a highway or stopping a housing development. So, maybe they were choosing their battles about what they thought they could achieve too. So, that might be part of it, I think. And just moving on from there a little bit, I thought, particularly out in the regions, once you get out of the cities, you might have sort of community members or farmers and stuff who are not too sure about tourism or why they want strangers coming to their town or why they want to share that hillside with trails. But my mate Troy Rarick puts it so well. It's like, well, we want to create a town where your kids don't have to move to the city. There's a job for them. If they want to live here and keep working in the bush, then, having these trails here will help to make sure that, there's jobs in the future for the next generation,
Absolutely.
And I'm always trying to ram at home as well that, if we don't get young people today passionate about their place, their trails, their bush, they're not going to look after it in the long term either. So, trails are that way of not just getting people to love and learn about the bush, but also to hopefully then become those stewards, those custodians of that place, and watching that whole Derby thing play out where they're, might be stopping the logging is been immensely interesting to watch. And
it has,
quite often takes me back to some moments out in the bush there with Grant Suckling, running around trying to work out where the forestry coop boundaries were and stuff. But of course, the coop boundaries are always where the good dirt was, and the edge of the coop boundary was always a cliff. So,
so many cliffs in that forest.
Of course, they've got all the good dirt for growing trees. That's right.
Exactly. Yeah, cool, man. So the final question, and it's like I think we can both agree on this one, and we probably have these. I think every trail builder has. It says, I wrote it down so I remember. In the final words of your book, you talk about leaf raking a trail before it opens. Now, if that's not Zen, I don't know what that is. I think every trail builder, when you finish a trail and you just sit there on the leaf rake and it just looks immaculate, you've done a good job and you're ready to ride it. It's a bloody good feeling, isn't it?
Oh, mate. Yeah, totally love it. Yeah, the leaf rake job is a big responsibility.
Agreed.
I think you've got to have the person that's doing that job has to be pretty switched on generally, I reckon. And but it's such a satisfying end to the day. I love it. Just everything's pretty much in place. It's just those little touches. And but even like like you guys, you're prepping existing trails for your event, just getting them open for the season and stuff. I think that's as important as as building the trails, just getting that stuff ready for those events or that trail maintenance.
Absolutely, man. I love it. I love doing it.
Yeah, it can be as simple as like even at Fox, which was my home trails for so long. It's before an event, even if you just rake the single track through the pine trees, just raked up the pine needles, you're not doing anything, you're not changing anything. You're just sort of opening up the lines for people to see and, bed it in nicer for the event. But people just froth over that. They just love it. And they really appreciate that effort and that attention to detail, So
humans love shiny things like magpies, you make it look shiny and pretty and they'll go, this is sick. It's funny, I got a young sidekick working with me now, and like we've just spent the last 2 days shin deep in sloshy snow trying to get everything ready for Ignition Mountain Bike Festival. And I'm just like, dude, he was getting a bit dismayed. And I'm like, dude, this is going to be sick. Like when all this melts away, the trails are going to bake in and they're going to be rock hard. They're going to roll super fast this weekend. And we're going to have 500 people on this mountain who are just going to be frothing. So, you just got to think through the pain of what we're doing, and the finished product's going to be sick. So, gave him that little spur up. Yeah. No, I had years
I
of
like it. And
practice
I
at
mean,
World Trail to give motivational speeches to the young guys, mate.
oh, that's it. We all have those dark moments, It's good if we
Absolutely.
can help each other out, I
Yeah,
think.
man.
And what you're doing is you're setting the trail for the whole season, like get it right now. Might not have to touch it again until this time next year, like.
Exactly, man. Like, we've got a digger now. So I've been redesigning and rebuilding a whole bunch of the bike parks. So I'm pretty stoked to get everyone riding all the new stuff I've been realigning and rebuilding. So I'm pretty pumped for this weekend. It's going to be sick. Ryan and
Cool.
Evan are coming over as well for it. So look forward to
Yeah,
catching
that's
up with
cool.
Muv.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be sick.
Nice one. And
Well,
how good are those? How good are those new Caterpillars?
yeah, it's great, man. We got the 1.7. It's got a bit of a big butt.
Yeah.
I've put it into the bank a few times, but she's been great. It's a great machine.
Oh, okay. It's not the zero swing one.
No, because we had to sort of balance what the use of the machine's going to be for the whole season. So
Yeah,
they wanted to use it for
fair
winter
enough.
stuff as well. They wanted a full cab. So I was like, look, whatever, but it's not my fault when I smashed the glass in it. Just,
Oh, mate. Yeah, I mean, you're in some pretty tight spots there for sure.
Yeah, I drove it down the international ski slope the other day to get it down because I couldn't get back up the hill. So I just like pointed it downhill and went, let's see if this works. And just ting, 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 ting on the front of the tracks with the bucket on the dirt. I think if the boss saw me doing that, he would have had a heart attack. But hey, that's
Oh,
all the fun
cool.
of trail building, man.
No, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, so yeah, dude, that was pretty much all my questions for the book. Where is the book actually? Oh man, you should not see my desk at the moment. It is horrendous. So the book is called, where's my thing? Zen and the Art of Trail Maintenance by Nick Bowman. Where can people find it, my man?
Oh, good question. Yeah, look, you can fire us off an email and I can get a hard copy to people. My email address is on the website, Destination Trails. And I think they can order a PDF, a downloadable PDF there if they like, or hook us up and let us know. Yeah, I'm sort of a bit off the back with that one, but yeah, we've had a little bit of interest. It's the last show, which was good.
Oh, that's cool. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
So
numbers for those episodes
are
are actually really good, man. So yeah, I'm glad everyone I got a lot of messages about that episode. They took a lot from it, especially from the earlier days of trails in Australia. So I'm glad that like we could give people a bit more, information about how it all began.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sick. I learned a lot from it as well.
Yeah, cool, man.
Yeah, that's
we could probably
sick.
talk for another 10 hours on that stuff, but yeah, no, it's good to get some of it out there for sure.
Yeah.
So well done to you too,
Thanks, man. Yeah, that's awesome, man. So I'll make sure I put the link and everything up in the description for everybody. And you can find me at the TSG Bikecast on the Instagrams and our beautiful faces on the YouTubes at That Stoked Guy. And that's it. We've done it again, man. We've done another podcast together. Hopefully next time we sit down and do this, we'll be looking at each other in real life. That'd be pretty sick. Oh, look at that view. Nice. Yeah, man. So
thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming on again, man. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll definitely do it again. Hopefully riding bikes, drinking beers, or next time you get over here, we'll sit at this desk and do it over a beer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, you're in Beauty, aren't you? I love that place.
Yeah, man. I certainly am in Beauty. I don't think I'll be leaving ever. Right. So that's the end of the episode. I really hope you enjoyed that. I always enjoy chatting to Nick. We've known each other a long time, and he's been in the industry forever, man. So he has a wealth of knowledge, and hopefully the next time I have him on the show, we'll be sitting across this desk from each other over a beer and after a good solid ride. So yeah, if you want to find the book and check it out for yourself, I really enjoyed it myself, especially as a trail builder. You can find it on their website at destinationtrails.com.au. And you can get that in PDF or paperback. And I really hope you, again, enjoyed the episode. I've been Steve Tampersoff. I love you all, and I'll see you out in the trails.